So we are recording this meeting. And welcome everybody. Glad to see you all here today. I know we have a couple of new people who are joining us. One, we are very privileged to see Steve Zoustra, who is with President CEO. Is that your title, Steve, of the
Yes.
Technology Council?
Of the Arizona Technology Council and the SciTech Institute.
Interrupt me if you need to.
I just want to tell people, Steve, just quickly about, I know people know about the Tech Council and stuff, but you want to just take a second and talk about the Tech Council?
Sure. So we're a statewide organization, a trade association focused on science and technology-based enterprises. We have offices in Phoenix and Tucson. We have about 750 member companies. We do public policy advocacy at the state and federal level on behalf of our members, sort of the voice and the face of the tech industry. And we do over 100 events a year. About a third of those are in Tucson, 2/3 are in Phoenix. We do events now and then in Flagstaff and Prescott and other places. We have a magazine, a newsletter, 2 podcasts, lots of reports, and for our smaller members, we also negotiate lower cost products and services. For example, we run a 401k program. So even if you had 4 employees or 8 or 12, you could have a 401k for your employees. Through our multiple employer plan, we run an association health plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona and can get better rates for our member companies than they could get going directly to Blue Cross. So, full service trade association. We have about 15 standing committees. Hundreds of our members participate in those committees. And so that's a little snapshot of the Tech Council. And then SciTech is a 501c3 focused on K through 12 STEM education. We run the Arizona SciTech Festival, run a program called Chief Science Officers, and run the middle school and high school science bowls, all designed to develop the next generation of talent to serve the tech industry in Arizona. How's that?
That'll do it. And most of you may know that, I don't know if she's on today, but Carla Morales with the Tech Council down here in Tucson has been participating fairly regularly with the task force. So,
As Steve? Mark.
Yes, Mark. Yeah, Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, and Kelly Green is here from the SciTech Institute, sometimes Kelly or Jeremy. I did just want to say on the public policy front, we're really closely aligned. The AZBSN report in 1120 really coordinated and integrated with the Tech Council broadband policy I've been writing for, what, Steve, 10 or 12 years now as part of the big annual policy guide. So, the policies are quite aligned between our thinking generally and what the Tech Council promotes.
Absolutely.
And Mark and I go back what, the 30 years, Mark, with Steve and the Tech Council?
Yeah, back to G-Speed in the original Arizona Software Association. And
yeah.
Steve led 2 high-tech groups here in the late 90s, went to Pittsburgh, built their Tech Council, and came back here.
Yeah. Nice to see everyone.
And you've done a great job, Steve, in building the Tech Council, and it's a pretty awesome organization.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
Okay, so do we have a couple of other people? Koopman, have you been on before? Can't remember if you've been on the call before. Koopman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you want to introduce yourself real quickly, Koopman?
Yeah. I've been to meetings before, but there's been a gap. I'm with We Care Tucson. We're a nonprofit based out of Tucson, obviously, formerly World Care, and we take in and refurbish used technology. We give some of it just out to the community, and sell some of it in order to fund our other main mission, which is giving out free durable medical equipment. And yeah, and we've been with the council and Aiden for a few months now. Definitely interested in getting more involved.
Cool. Well, glad you could join us today, Coleman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me as well.
Javier, I see you're on the call. I think you were on once before, if I remember correctly, but you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Yeah, good afternoon, Steve and everybody. I'm Javier Baca with Pima County, IT Director of Pima County. Sorry I got joined late here, just busy meetings before this, but glad to be here and eager to kind of hear what's going on. Good to see you all.
Sounds great, Javier, and we need to reconnect
Yes.
offline.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And James Redding? James, are you there? Well, I guess he'll be back. Okay, and Dan Stormont. Dan, are you, do you have a new job now?
No, Steve, I'm still doing the same thing I was doing before. I'm still with the Microsoft Philanthropies TEALS program. I'm in a different position than I used to be. I used to be the regional manager for Arizona, of course, and that's now Reggie Coleman up in, or excuse me, Reggie Carrillo up in the Phoenix area. But yeah, I'm still doing the good work down here in Tucson, and it's always great to be with you.
I thought I saw on your LinkedIn or something that you were with Cordis.
Oh, I'm actually, yeah, I've always been with Concordis. Concordis is the vendor that I work for that works for Microsoft. So I'm not a direct employee. None of the regional managers or program specialists with the TEALS program are actually full-time employees of Microsoft.
Got it. That was very confusing to me. And Elizabeth Bartholo, well, I don't know how not pronouncing your name correctly, I'm sure.
Yeah, last name's Bartholomew. I've been on these meetings a couple times, but I'm with Traversant Group, and we represent the WIA, the Wireless Infrastructure Association.
Yes, I do. I have a good memory. It's just a little short. I tell people that all the time, and unfortunately, it's true.
And a member of the Arizona Tech Council.
Yes, correct.
Great, cool. Anybody else that's new that I've missed? I know our speaker you're going to hear from in just a little while, but anybody else that hasn't been on the call before? Okay, well, let's just jump into it. Just a reminder that after the formal meeting, for those who want to stay online and kibitz with our colleagues, we do have an informal gathering. We turn off the recording and people just chat and share information, ask questions or whatever. And that might be 2 people, it might be 10 people, it could be 15 minutes, it could be an hour. It just kind of depends on the mood at that particular time. So anyway, you're all invited to participate in that. So moving on, and before I get into introducing Nicole, I don't believe Sandeep is on the call today. But before I turn it over to Nicole, Alicia and Cindy, I've put you on the agenda since you guys have a lot of stuff hopefully to say, or maybe not yet. Anyway, but anyway, we do want to hear from you. So with that, Nicole, can I turn it over to you, and can you give us an update, and maybe you can give us an update for Sandeep also? Well, Cindy, you probably can also, but Nicole, you want to give us a quickie update, please?
Sure, Steve. I see your notes here that you have published a link to the request for comment from NTIA.
Yes.
And so that's still open. Those comments are due, you see here, on May 1st. So this is the call for public comments related to the 2 programs that are established under the Digital Equity Act, which is part of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. States have already received that Digital Equity Planning Fund. That's what we're working on right now with the state. And so these comments are for the state capacity grant program, also called the implementation. So after states create their plans, they then will apply for this funding to implement some of those key priority actions that they've identified. It's also related to the competitive grant program, which is available for state agencies, tribal governments, municipalities and localities, nonprofit entities, universities. So all of those types of applicants would be competing for the same pie here, which is the competitive grant. I think that's really one of the key things. We had a pretty busy week last week at the National Tribal Telecom Association meeting. That was 2 days of meeting with tribal telecoms and service providers. Multiple broadband offices were also there in attendance to talk about, certainly BEAD projects as well as other priorities, and even a digital equity panel. So for those of us who've been in some of these broadband conversations, to see digital equity being, in the same settings and the same discussions as infrastructure is a great thing. On Thursday, we also had NTIA's tribal convening. So that was for recipients and applicants of the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. And we had over 300 people in attendance at that event, where they could get a deep dive with some of the NTIA team members, as well as to go over some technical aspects of those implementation grants, and in preparation for what's called NOFO 2, or the second round of funding for the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. We are, as you know, we've the Broadband Office has selected their consultant or their sub-awardee for part of the digital equity planning on the state's behalf. And we're getting started with a kickoff meeting with those planning teams, as well as some of our state agency partners to set the pace. So I'm going to make sure that Sandeep and Cindy can share a little bit about that once they are ready.
Hey, thanks, Nicole. So when I talked to the woman who was coordinating that the tribal conference,
Sonia,
saying
yes.
that they, pardon?
Sonia, yes.
Yes, she was saying that they weren't going to be talking a lot about digital equity, so or digital inclusion. So it sounds like they did, and that's a good thing. Yes,
in fact, I was on a panel on Wednesday afternoon. It was the last panel of the day, so there's that piece with Mikhail Sundust, with a gentleman from the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and with a library consultant, Carson Block, who's participated, or he's kind of run some broadband training for library staff and planning. So it was, certainly at the end of a long conference day, it can be tough. And I know digital equity came up in a few of the other conversations on around BEAD as well, because those are simultaneous programs.
Hey, thank you.
Nicole, Mark with a question. Hi. So for the tribal round 2, I just saw 2 more announcements in round 1, I think now. Yes. 1.75 billion allocated, so they're not quite done. But are you getting any sense of the timing for the launch of tribal round 2 with the approximate $1 billion in additional funding?
No, we don't have a set date yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Nicole? Thank you, Nicole. So as Nicole mentioned, we have a couple of new folks, and Cindy Hogan, which you all may know by now, has been appointed with the Arizona Broadband Office Digital Equity Program Manager. And Cindy, you've been on for what, a week now?
Yes.
So how's that going? And you got any things you want to tell us at this point?
Yeah, it's just been a little hectic, and I know Sandeep is just always super busy. We were going to try to talk before this call today, and we didn't get a chance to. I may have to hop off in a minute, but so I've spent one day in the office. I'm doing a lot of onboarding and getting to know the ACA really well, which is, I mean, I'm so impressed. I'm really enjoying getting to know more about that organization and all the fingers that they have out into the economy in Arizona, and the support that we're getting for they're very excited about having broadband come to the fore a little more and pursue that as part of their overall plan for the state. So yeah, I'm really excited about it, but I don't have a whole lot to report.
Okay, well, obviously, Cindy, in the next couple of weeks, it'd be good to hear from you about, what your plans are, what your kind of agenda is, and so forth.
Yeah, I'd like to know
As soon
that.
as you know, huh?
Yes.
Okie doke. Well, again, congratulations, Cindy.
And Mala just reminded me that I haven't given my new email address, so I'll put that in the chat along with my title, and look forward to hearing from everybody.
And I did share it also,
Okay, good.
Cindy, but go ahead and do that anyway.
Sure, sounds good.
And Alicia, I think you're online. Is there anything you can tell us yet about the contract that you guys have for the Digital Equity Institute?
Nothing new at this point. I mean, as you all know, Digital Equity Institute was awarded the state planning, and at this point, we're just kind of in a little bit in a limbo in terms of what Nicole was alluding to and spoke about planning, and we'll probably have some updates in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, and Alicia, I'd like to have an offline discussion with you also.
Sure.
And Cindy, we need to do that too.
Sure.
Okay, any questions for either of them before we move on? So a quick announcement, and then we're going to get into our presentation for today. So Will Novak, who is Government and Community Affairs Manager with Google Fiber here in Arizona, sent me a note. Unfortunately, he's going to be a new participant with us, but he hasn't been able to make the meetings. And he couldn't make it today because they are in the process of launching Google Fiber in Mesa. But he did ask me to tell you folks that you are invited to join them at the Renegade Coffee Company. And he said they'll buy you breakfast, although don't expect a big breakfast. He said one item and one drink. So just so you know. But they'll be there to answer questions and give you kind of an update of what their plans are. So that's at Renegade Coffee Company on Thursday, March 30th, 7 to 9 a.m. So you're all invited to join them and find out what they're all about. So moving on, I want to get to our presentation today. Andy Ridley, who is Workforce Program Manager with the State of Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity. And I just want to say a couple of things before I turn it over to Andy. And Andy, I think you may have some things you want to share, so I'll stop sharing in just a moment. But I had the chance to actually, Cindy and I, and Aaron, I think, is on the call, had a chance to meet him at the summit, the Workforce Summit down here in Pima County a couple of weeks ago. And since that time, Andy and I have chatted a little bit. And one of the things I was asking him about was what are they doing in terms of digital inclusion and so forth. And so today we're going to hear from him about what that workforce program looks like, and then to just have an open discussion about how can we best collaborate and how does it fit with our interest of doing digital literacy. So with that, Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you need to, I will stop sharing and let you share if you'd like to. Did I do you justice, Andy?
Yes, you. I hope I live up to the accolades. But yeah, definitely, I'm happy to be here, excited to be here. And yes, I want to share my screen. So I am not going to do death by PowerPoint, though, I promise that. I just want to introduce myself to you, but more importantly, the Arizona Career Readiness Credential and its newest edition, Digital Literacy Basics. I'm Andy Ridley. My original background is education and leadership in education. And after, not really choosing that career, but doing that because that's what was needed at the time because I had a family. Later on in life, I found a career that I really enjoy, and that is working with workforce and essentially, helping job seekers find better employment or helping employers find better job seekers and all the intermediaries in between. And that has landed me in OEO, the Office of Economic Opportunity. And we have a small team, a workforce team, along with the other side of OEO that runs all the labor market information for the state of Arizona, the economists and the Census Bureau folks, and they're the ones that come up with the labor numbers each month. And really excited for the work that they do. They're very professional. Please utilize them for concerns, questions, issues that you have related to needing data related to labor market information and employment in general, wages, etc. Now, out of the workforce office, we attempted to address an item that came up about 8 years ago when Governor Ducey took office, and ran a lot of research out of ACA, the Arizona Commerce Authority, and our office, OEO, that really tried to focus on the fact that employers were finding it difficult, at least thinking it back about 8 years ago, before kind of the change of the economy of where we have more jobs than we have employee or candidates, job seekers. But at that time, it was difficult and to find a qualified workforce at all. Now it's just difficult to find them with these foundational skills. I said that backwards. Nowadays, it's hard to find a workforce at all. But back then, the focus was that we also wanted to satisfy what employers were clamoring for. And that was essentially foundational academic skills that were workplace related and professional skills like attitude, effective communication, problem solving, teamwork, etc. Now, when COVID hit, we also ran into a lot of feedback from employers that had furloughed, for a few weeks or a couple months, a number of folks, or laid them off, and they were hiring back. And they said, yeah, but we're going to want to hire these folks that will work remotely or virtually. And what do we have that would validate whether they can do that? So we've added to what is the current Arizona Career Readiness Credential that validates the professional skills and workplace foundational academic skills with another component. But before I jump into that digital component, just essentially the ACRC is an assessment in the end, 4 assessments in the areas of workplace math, workplace reading, workplace data analysis, and professional skills. And those that pass can be leveled based on the academic assessments. The professional skills is pass or no pass. And so with that, they're awarded with a certificate that is, the governor's signature, a seal of Arizona. In other words, validated by the state out of our office. And this is a no cost to any user, any entity, any of our partners that help proctor the assessments, the employers. No one has a cost. It's all covered out of our office. But the key piece that we discovered a couple of years ago was the digital literacy component. Now, I know out of the task force, a lot of attention is given to broadband, or in other words, the infrastructure. And that's really only one of the 2 major prongs of digital situation that we have in our state. And the other prong is the literacy component. 60% of the people, well, across the world anyway, are connected to the internet, probably even more percent than that in Arizona, but it's continuing to increase as we increase our broadband. 78% of our employees use email, at least if nothing else, a digital communication. 83% of us rely on some kind of technology to collaborate. And clearly 3 out of 5 of us actually use a computer on our job. So that's the why we need digital literacy. So out of that, the vendor that provided the other 4 components of the ACRC developed for us rapidly, and we're so proud of them. And they came up with a very thorough and comprehensive approach to the basics of digital literacy. 5 essential modules and 1 final proctored test that can determine a person's capability or skill in digital literacy. And the 5 components I think are important to mention real quickly. I'm not gonna, I know you're looking at the screen, but just to point it out, how to use the hardware, how to use the software, the digital communication basics, and the internet part of the software, and documents part of the software, so word processing or spreadsheets or whatever, and then security basics, and essentially understanding your privacy settings and passwords and the policies of your company to guard the security. And in the end, then, and this is a sample of the certificate that comes out of that explains on the back, literally component by component, what the John Doe has passed. And just like the ACRC, it's part of the program. It has the seal of Arizona, the governor's signature, and a date achieved. And it's not going to have an expiration date because this is a digital literacy basics. But I think that's essentially what the employers of today are looking for. So, I just ran through that rather quickly. I didn't really give you much of an overview of ACRC in general. That wasn't the purpose of my visit today. But whenever Steve feels it's appropriate, I'll certainly take questions. I already popped into the chat a website address for the ACRC where much more information is available about the program in general, not just specifically the digital literacy. It being a newer component isn't very highly highlighted on the website. And also my contact information, at least my email address. And up there you have a phone number too. So back to you, Steve, based on where you want to take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So questions for Andy, and particularly, and I have some questions, but I want to wait and see what other questions or comments people have. So any questions or comments for Andy before we move on?
I have a comment. It's Andy Sinclair, DES. I like the certificate, the fact that it has a list of all of the things that this person may have been trained in. It's like when you go to get your vehicle serviced, you see a checklist of what all that mechanic is trained on. So I think that's a very good concept.
Yeah, as I went back to that slide to show, very clearly does that. And the broader certificate of the ACRC does a similar feature, including that the level achieved, how it pertains to certain job zones of the job that might be sought using that certificate. But this particular certificate, yeah, outlines those 5 components that I kind of rattled off rather quickly.
Other questions?
What's the target age for this?
There is no target age other than it's probably not necessary for 12-year-olds or younger. By the time they graduate from high school, around the age when they would be seeking employment, they might have all of these digital literacy basics, and we will have bigger worries on our hands of AI and things to deal with. But so I would say,
Well, I would disagree with that statement, but I mean,
so
'cause
that
you
would be,
have,
you know,
you have
anyone,
those that don't have technology, so they're not gonna be adept to these things. That's why I was asking, what's the age bracket of this program?
well, and that's the key of this program too, is that because people aren't adept, and I know I rattled it off rather quickly, and so I only showed it in a slide that the outcome is a test, but it's backed up with learning components that are from the same portal. So a person can work through developing, you know, at least as soon as they have an account to log in to this portal, they can work through practicing all of the various basics of these components and very thorough lessons to assure that they have a broad foundation of digital literacy.
Andy, could you stop sharing for a moment, please?
You got it.
Okay. So anybody else have questions or comments? So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, from what you're showing, it sounds like it certainly has potentially broad appeal, right? Digital literacy is very broad appeal, and I think it could cross over into a variety of areas. I'm wondering if there's been any outreach to the libraries and such, because libraries, for instance, from their website, like for instance, the Maricopa County Library as an example, they have up the top of several items there where they've got e-media, research, and learn. And then from the drop down, they have different services that are available. So I'm just wondering if that's a potential avenue there to get the word out, to share the resource. Because I mean, if it's self-paced and that somebody can go through it, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any other avenues you've explored on how to get the message out and others that are using it. And before, when Sharika was talking about age groups and such, I can see high schoolers doing this sort of thing quite readily, especially for those who are just looking at trying to get into employment. Maybe it's their first job and they want something that they can go through. Maybe this is one of those avenues for them.
Well, absolutely. That's one of the reasons I'm on this meeting, is to get the word out. We've only had it out for probably about 6 months. So we immediately rolled it out to our already ACRC partners. And, you know, many dozens, over about 150 have already completed the assessment. And, yeah, certainly we want to get the word out. And this particular group is one that is a perfect fit, I believe.
So Aaron, I think you had your hand up, and I think you just met Andy, if I'm not mistaken.
Hi, Aaron.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was picking up my kid in car line. Apologize for that. Thank you for calling on me. Yes, I was just going to say that Andy and I actually just met this last Friday, and we are evaluating it for potential addition to what our Connect Arizona Digital Navigators offer, and especially with the workforce development aspect. You know, we see a lot of people who are looking for digital skills for that very reason. And to Sharika's point, 100%, yes, kids that have cell phones do not necessarily know how to use computers, right? So there's a lot of potential there, and we're evaluating it at the state library at this time. And Andy, just a side note, since I haven't had a chance to email you yet, we are interested in setting up a user account for me, so I'll send you that information. Thank you.
Great to hear it. We'll do that. And for everyone else, that's why I left my contact information. You know, I rattled this off really quickly. There's a much more lengthy presentation we can do to whatever your group is, and if you're interested in looking at it more deeply, that's kind of what Erin was referring to. That she and I had probably about a half an hour meeting last Friday, and so we can bring that presentation to whoever your group is, and whatever it would take. Whether it's your school district, obviously, the entire program is ideal for a school, and numbers of your schools are already adopting the entire ACRC program, including Saurita, your competitor Amphi over there. Not that you're competing, but you know what I mean. They're already taking the first steps of bringing this on. So I will, you will find my email already in the chat. If you scroll up, I'm going to put it in there one more time though.
Andy, how long does it take to get through the program?
Well, now that's a really good question too, because if you start with a person who doesn't even know how to turn a computer on, well, they can't even use the program because it is in itself digital. And I get that. I know it's kind of an issue, but once they're capable of maneuvering through, logging onto the internet enough to get to this portal, then it also depends on how quickly it's self-paced, how quickly they want to go. We don't really have a study yet on how much time people are spending in the system for digital literacy specifically. But on average, with any of our modules, they've been spending an hour to an hour and a half in a separate module before they move on to an additional module. So with 5 modules, I would say, 7.5 hours, maybe on average, 7 or 5 to 7.5 hours. But again, depending on how deeply they want to master their skill, and these are very, technical skills, so maybe that's a little more involved than perhaps a module in mathematics or reading. So it'd be a guess just at this point.
Yeah, thank you.
So Andy, are there any on-ground places where people can go to work through this? We've already talked a little bit about libraries. I know you guys work with the regional workforce development organizations around. And so is there places where people can say, I want to do this, but I don't know, like you were just saying, I don't know where to start. Is there
We have approximately, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Pardon me.
No problem. No, go ahead.
We have approximately 100 different partners across the state. Now, this includes the schools, the community colleges, the Arizona at Work, workforce centers, or job centers, whatever you like to call them, one-stops. The libraries will become a great new addition because that's a central community resource, and nonprofits. Various nonprofits. And it just depends if they're one of our, excuse me, one of our partners. So you can always connect with me and ask me, where's the closest partner? For example, I'm looking up on the screen, so I'm picking on you, Samarita, at Manny Villa. Down in Tucson, that's your Arizona at Work will be the partner down there, or Pima Community College. But that doesn't mean we're not open to other partnerships. We have a number of nonprofits. Most of them are Phoenix based. That's just because we haven't had the outreach coming to us from the nonprofits in Tucson yet. But we made a lot of connections about 10 days ago when we were down at that summit. So ready to start making some new relationships.
So this is consistent with our interest to be able to do digital literacy around the state. And so obviously he's got a network of people already that we can connect with and figure out how we can best collaborate with all of them. Any other questions or comments for Andy? So obviously this is a continuing discussion that we need to have, because it certainly fits with all of our interest in talking about digital literacy and digital literacy training. And I would also suggest, Andy, if I'm speaking out of turn, let me know. But you all might want to take a look at the curriculum and say, this is great, but maybe we could tweak this, or we could do this for a different population or whatever, because they do have a good foundation to work from. And as Aaron already pointed out, that they're already starting to work with this particular curriculum.
Yeah, and as a former educator, I can vouch for the curriculum is quite top notch in all the aspects of the program. So also in the digital literacy realm, they've done an excellent job on producing a curriculum that is user-friendly, intuitive, and yet progresses you through the skill development at a good pace so that you're not, spending a year in the program trying to learn it.
So Sharika, are you still there? Oh, there you are. I see you. So Sharika, I would suggest that you follow up with Andy. I assume you have some interest for your population and for your program, and I would definitely follow up with him about how you can collaborate and use those resources.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing the resources first before
Sure.
I promote it. Got to know what I'm promoting.
Sure, sure. Any other questions for Andy? Well, thank you, Andy. We'll look forward to having some additional discussion with you about how we can best collaborate with you.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me to be part of your meeting today. And
You
I'll
bet.
stay
Hopefully.
on to just hear the rest of the program.
And I've added you to our list, and hopefully we'll see you regularly.
Yes, that would be my anticipation. Thank you.
Sounds good. So Sharika, just to change gears for just a second, you want to talk about your visit on Friday?
It was so much fun. So we went down to U of A to visit Dr. Brian Carter in the humanities, and we got to see all the stuff. Man, he has so much tech in there. It was just overwhelming. But we I'll have to forward you, Steve, or forward you all my digital business card. That's a hologram that I created down there while I was there. It was pretty fun, but just to see what they have going on, and they have a green room that's a square booth. And so it's just cameras wrapped around you so that you can just, teach. And it's an app that if you've all been to their website, it's an app. And so it puts the virtual person in your house. So like you're watching the classroom there. And so we just talked about what they're doing and how they're going to move it forward. Yeah, we were there for about 3 hours. So we were nerding out for about 3 hours with all the equipment. So it was pretty fun.
The app that he's using, I can't remember would you remember the name of it offhand, Sharika?
Beam,
Beam,
art.
that's it.
Yeah, Beam. Yeah.
So I've actually requested an account. Theoretically, we're not eligible because we're not a school district, but I've asked if they would provide us a free account, which they do for other school districts. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool technology.
Yeah, it was fun. It was because I took 2 of my friends and we all like literally on our drive back. That's what we were talking about. So we're yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. But I'll send it to you, Steve, and you can plop the link into the email if people want to see my digital hologram business card now.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll definitely be following up with Brian and find out more about where he is with the implementation of his grant in Southern Arizona. Okay. Any other questions, comments for today? I have a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen again for a moment. So a couple of other things.
No, it's what you want.
Let's see.
Heard I won $1 million. He asked, what do you want?
Okay, so Mala, I think you were just going to listen. Mala, I know, is in the throes of wrapping up E-rate applications for now. So I don't know if you're even still on, Mala, and if you can take 2 minutes or not.
I'm still on.
Can you take a couple minutes or not?
Yeah, just a couple minutes. Actually, I'm not going to give an update or anything, but yes, we are. Tomorrow is the last day, is the deadline for filing E-rate applications. So we'll know. Hopefully next week I should be able to report on how the applications went and how many millions we applied for this year, both schools and libraries. And Shelby is filing a cybersecurity comments on for updating E-rate cybersecurity. So let's see how that goes. We are really struggling to make sure that that happens. Again, that they have asked for cybersecurity funding to be included in category 2, as that's not fully being utilized. So let's see how FCC reacts to it, and how other applicants react to it as well. So I will give you a better update next week this time.
Okay. Well, as always, Paula, you do great work and bring a lot of money into this state to support our schools and libraries. So thank you for all that work.
Thank you.
So Aaron, I know that you're kind of remote. Do you want to say anything more or not?
Yeah, really quick, I just wanted to let everyone know that we did send out an email to the county librarians and all of the public library directors, alerting them to the end of the continuous enrollment for the Medicaid benefits. That was something that changed over the pandemic, where things were automatically renewed and people didn't have to prove their eligibility. And so on April 1st, that automatic re-enrollment is ending. And so we worked together with various internal partners at Access and Care First Arizona, as well as the Arizona Children's Alliance, to put together some information to send out to the libraries so that they're prepared for that. So that went out, and no negative responses, but a few positive responses saying thanks for letting us know. So that's always encouraging. I also wanted to give a quick update. I have sent the full list of all of the libraries in Arizona to Lyle Ashita over at FCC. He is going to be sending thousands, millions, not millions, thousands though, for sure, of print brochures regarding ACP enrollments directly to all of our libraries. And so that should help with the awareness campaign that we are hoping to have here in Arizona around ACP enrollments. He's got that list as of the end of last week, includes primarily English and Spanish, as well as some special orders in Braille and large print for our Talking Book Library, so that we can also serve the low vision population of the state. And so I don't have a timeline on ETA and when those things are going to be arriving at the libraries, but that's the next step in the phase. Once I know when that happens, we'll go back to all of the libraries and let them know to be expecting them. And hopefully that results in, you know, the other million people or whatever it is that are eligible to sign up. Those are all my updates right now.
So Aaron, here I thought you were just sitting around looking for something to do.
Nope. No.
But as always, you're doing great work. I don't think Holly is on the line at the moment, and I don't believe Janet Major is on the line. So we're going to just head down to the Arizona Department of Education. And Philip, I'm pretty sure you were on the line. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm always here most of the time.
You're there when you're, except when you're not.
So a couple of things coming from the Office of Digital Teaching and Learning at the Department of Education. So we have paid for a one-year membership for all K-12 charter and districts to have a COSIN membership. COSIN is the Consortium of School Networking. So it's on a national level that brings a lot of K-12 together in student data privacy, cybersecurity, and other policies that are pretty relevant to K-12. So we paid for that membership. So all these K-12 just have to do is fill out a contact form to put who's the main point of contact for COSIN, and it goes from there. If you are wondering if you're eligible as an education institution, you can reach out to me, and then I will forward you to Kelly Crucy, who's our community engagement manager. Any questions about COSIN? Is Manny Villa still on here too? Because I know he's big in K-12, and yeah, very exciting. I'm glad you're still here. Thank you, Philip. Another thing that's coming out March 29th, which is this Wednesday, we are having a tribal and rural roundtable for K-12 for rural and tribal school districts. So Shelby Brown is heading that up. Nicole, I believe, from NTIA is a guest speaker about BEAD as well. So that's open for K-12 and school superintendents, everything like that. And then our final update, where is it? We're having a Tech Town Hall April 10th at Sunnyside Unified School District. So I will drop that post as well in the chat. That way they're all there for people to grab and screen grab and share out. So a couple exciting things. Hey, Paul. Yes, Paul's been a big friend of mine in K-12. Miss working with him on Fridays and hearing him talk. So yep, that's it from us.
Okay. So I did talk to, excuse me, to Philip last week about possibly having Shelby and the representative from DES, who is their tribal representative, and EJ, maybe we can talk also about having them on a panel here to kind of really give us an overview. And I also am reaching out to Janet to get a kind of an overview of where are we with what's happening with the tribes these days. So that's possible that we might do that next week if I can pull that off. Okay. Anything else? So Derek, I don't believe you're here. Rory, I don't think you're online, but I do want to say that Rory had just renewed his sponsorship. So I actually can get paid for another month. And so Rory, I know you're not online, but thank you very much for renewing your sponsorship. And Mylan, I guess, is not online, but he's probably busy also with E-rate. So with that, any other updates, announcements that people have, events coming up that you want people to know about?
Steve, usually Carla would announce, tech council events of particular relevance.
Right.
Maybe Steve Zylstra will talk briefly about the upcoming cybersecurity summit. Steve, if you're still on, do you want to give that a minute of background in the date and all?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mark. You're going to embarrass because I forgot the date, but it's coming up in May, and it's our annual.
I'll look it up.
Our annual.
It's the 11th.
11th. Thank you. It's our annual cybersecurity summit, and we do it in collaboration with ACTRA, which is run by Frank Grimmelman, and it's a half day of intense presentations around everything related to cybersecurity. And this year it's going to be at the Arizona Heritage Center, which is essentially the Arizona History Museum, and which is a really beautiful space. And the reason we're doing it there is because we did it at Venue 8600 last year in North Scottsdale, and it was tight. The event is really growing and very well attended. So if any of you have any interest in cybersecurity, you find all of our events and register for all of our events at aztechcouncil.org. Just go to the events tab and you'll find the cybersecurity summit. So we also do an event in December. It's a sort of a breakfast forum, also very well attended. So we'll keep you posted on that as time goes on. Thank you, Mark.
So Steve, who on your staff, actually, let me stop sharing here again. So who in your staff coordinates that cybersecurity conference?
Well, Ron Schott is the staff liaison to the committee that helps us develop the topics and the presenters and so on, our cybersecurity committee. But Daryl Emerson, who is our director of programs and events, manages all of our signature events like the cybersecurity summit. So you can connect with either one of those, rschott@aztechcouncil.org or D Emerson@aztechcouncil.org.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking, Steve, is that we've had some discussions and hopefully we can get around to getting a cybersecurity team under the task force here to look at some of the cybersecurity issues, because as you know, we're giving out lots of devices, we're connecting all these people, but we're not doing much in the way of cybersecurity. And so we really need to figure that out. And it would certainly be helpful with the people who attend your summit to have some understanding, or maybe even some dialogue or forum or something related to that particular population. Because I know that that conference, I've attended it in the past, and it's a great conference, but it's focused really on IT professionals, CIOs and so forth, but not really to how do we address this other population of people.
Yeah, well, there is no more topical issue in the digital world today, right? There's a lot of bad actors around the world, and they're trying to get into all of our systems, and there's nothing more critical to US security right now and the security of all the companies we represent. So it's as hot a topic as there is out there. So anything we can do to support you in that regard, Steve, just let us know.
Yeah. So we'll talk some more, and I know Cora and I have talked some about that, but definitely want to figure out if there's some way. I know it's getting late in the process right now, but if there's some way to sync that with that conference, would be great. I'm not trying to hijack it, but if we can figure out how to integrate it somehow, would be really great.
Yeah, we could talk further about that at our committee level.
Okay,
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, anything else for today? Anything else for the good of the order? Well, if not, and no announcements or anything, Paul, you're so quiet. Although you did talk today, but I always have to pick on you, Paul, you know that. Okay, well, if we don't have anything else, then I think we're done for today. I'm gonna stop recording, and